Joining me now from New York is Nicholas Lowry with Swann Galleries. Thank you very much for joining us on the CJN Daily.
I couldn't be happy to be here, Ellen. Thank you for having me.
It's great to have you here. So this auction about the vintage posters has a very interesting poster with a very important Canadian historical connection. Tell us about the poster a little bit. What do you know about it?
Let me just give you a brief background of the sale if I can. And it's not a sales pitch, it's just to put it all into context. This is an auction we have every summer that features propaganda posters from the First and the Second World War. We've been selling military propaganda for years and years. It's a very popular sub-genre of collecting. And this year, among the offerings from the First World War is one of two exceptional Canadian Judaic pieces encouraging Jews to join a Canadian regiment. And I say one of two. The version that we have coming up for sale is in English, but the poster also exists in Yiddish, the same image, but different text in Yiddish. We don't have that one for sale, but this poster is attractive. It is historically fascinating. It's a document from history. It's a poignant Judaic piece and a very rare World War I artifact.
Just to be clear, you have the other one in house, but it's not for sale. You said there's one of two.
Just to be clear, we don't have it. I'm sorry. The poster, I consider them in my mind a pair. They are not. They existed separately. They existed to appeal to Yiddish-speaking Jews who were in Canada, and they existed to Jews who spoke English and weren't so familiar with the mother tongue, as it were. So we only have this one. We don't have the other one. It's a very interesting question, which you haven't asked yet, but I'm anticipating this interesting question from you. Which is the rarer of the two, the English or the Yiddish? My guess is that the Yiddish one is actually rarer, and I would guess, in my professional opinion, that the Yiddish one is actually rarer as well because it is less frequently seen.
Well, I was going to say, I've seen posters. One of them is unfortunately water damaged a little bit, but it's in the archives of the Canadian Jewish Military Museum, which was in Toronto for many years, and now it's closed, and all the artifacts and posters are in storage in the home of the daughter of the founder, and we don't know what to do with all that stuff. And the second one is in Montreal's Canadian Jewish Archives, and they've had it for many years, and so has she. But let's tell the audience a little bit. I'm going to show a picture on our social media and on YouTube what it looks like, but maybe you can describe it or, briefly for us.
I most certainly can. So it is this, it's an image very much with the trappings of other patriotic and propagandistic posters. There is a banner of the British Union Jack across the top of the poster, in which are set three cameos of prominent Jewish members of Parliament. Herbert Samuel, the Viscount Reading, and Edwin Montague. And underneath, there is a person who is being cut free from his roped bonds while a troop of soldiers are running across a field, and he's about to join them. And in the word bubble above his mouth, it says, "You have cut my bonds and set me free. Now let me help you set others free." And right next to that is the slogan, "Britain expects every son of Israel to do his duty." Basically encouraging those of Judaic background to join the army.
Now, is there anything that is unique in your opinion about this poster? Because you've sold lots and lots of wartime propaganda posters. What strikes you differently about this one?
That's a tricky question. What's different about this one is that it has come up so infrequently. I mean, just to give you a number, I have been in the business for just about 25 years now. And this is only the 7th time we have come across this poster in 25 years, which is incredibly rare. What's also interesting about it is, for all the stories and all the history that people read about the world wars, in my opinion, and I know that you and I approach this from very different academic perspectives, but from what I understand, very little is spoken about Jewish involvement in the war. And this prominently places Jews right in, it doesn't actually place them in the fight, but it positions them within history to be shown as being so involved in the war.
Right. And just for our listeners, in my other life, I wrote a book about this, and there were at least 5,000 Canadians Jews who served in the Canadian Expeditionary Forces and in this brigade, which was very interesting. I'm not sure if you know much about it, Nico. They had several prominent Zionist Jewish people who had wanted to move to Palestine or move to the Holy Land, and they were the ones who sort of signed up right away when somebody thought it would be a great idea. They had this brainwave to have a Jewish brigade, not to disperse them among the regular forces, but to fight as Jews in the British Army against in World War I. And they had recruiting offices. It wasn't such a great. It didn't go over all that well because they only got about 300 people in Montreal and Toronto when they were started to assemble this in Montreal. But the poster is so inspiring because as you said, the Jewish people in Canada, it was a very small community at the time, and I could go on for 2 hours about this. You should read our book called Northern Lights. But in the Second World War, there was always this rumor or this belief that Jews didn't fight, right? And that they were cowards. They took the easy way out. They stayed home. They didn't want to get their bloody and dirty. And in fact, it was definitely not true. And it was also not true in World War I. And so seeing this poster up for sale brings me to the question of where does it come from? Who would be selling such a very important, artifact to Canadian Jewish history?
Yeah, it's a great question. And on one level, I need to keep the name of the consignor confident. We have a confidentiality agreement. But in general, I can definitely tell you the broad strokes from which it comes. It came from a collector who passed away. So it's actually being sold by their estate. It was a collector who was very interested in the most interesting propaganda posters that he could find to decorate his office with. And so this poster was one of 40 or 50 that we have in the auction that came from this office in Manhattan. And all he wanted to do was generate conversation among his clients when they came in. So I can also tell you, I don't feel I'm breaking any confidentiality agreement, the client was not Jewish, but was very aware of the significance and the historical importance of the poster. So that's why they acquired it, and I'm selling it now because they passed away.
Let's talk about the rarity. We know about the significance. Let's talk about the rarity. A couple of years ago, you had a similar auction, right, of a similar copy of this poster?
Yeah, that is correct. In fact, it was just over 2 years ago, March 2018. It was the Yiddish version of the poster. Okay, the Yiddish version, which had an auction estimate of $4,000 to $6,000. And that auction estimate was based on the previous 5 times that the poster had come up to auction in the last 2 decades, roughly sold within $4,000 and $6,000. So we gave that estimate. And at the auction, the poster actually sold for $9,375. So exceeding the high estimate, showing to me, showing to the market in general, how desirable this poster is. People were literally fighting for it tooth and nail.
And when you said on your material, it went to an institution, can you say where?
I can't, I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm. So this one, you're thinking it's going to break that record?
Well, not necessarily. We estimated this one at $5,000 to $7,500, which would be the highest price, I believe, set for one of the English language versions. I'm just checking my records. Yep, that would be the highest price. But we'll see. Listen, the interesting thing about auctions are that there are no rules. And when somebody or when several people get passionate about something, there's actually no limit to how much they might spend.
Do you know the name is Friedman is on it? It was printed in Montreal. What do you know who the designer was and the artist?
Not only don't we know the specific artist of this poster, and maybe we'll never know, but it would be great, as I said, we also don't really know the exact date of the poster. And this to me is historically astounding, right? So there was this major push to get Jewish Canadian citizens to, maybe not even citizens.
No, well, British subjects, yeah, British subjects.
To enlist. but there is no historical record of when this push began. So we say it's around Ben-Gurion's time. It's around that time. We have cataloged the poster as circa 1917, as best as our south of the border historical context can go. But as I understand it, some of the Canadian institutions believe the poster is closer to 1914. Now, this is it's a small detail, but in my world, these are the kind of geeky details that get us so excited and keep us up at night. I would love to know if anybody knows and can share, if any of your listeners can come forward with some information to more accurately date this poster. That would just be fantastic.
We're on it. We're on it. All right, everybody, you heard that. So email us and let us know, or tweet us at the CJN.ca. That's E. Bessner at the CJN.ca, or they can get in touch with Swann Galleries, of course, in New York City, right ahead of the auction, and let them know.
Listen, even if it's after the auction, we are geeks and historians across the board. When this piece sells, if we can change the historic record to accurately reflect its date or its artist, we are happy to do that. We would be tickled over the moon to be able to do that.
Okay, last question, and that is, you said institutions are interested in it. What's the kind of person that would buy something like this?
That's a great question. Outside of institutions, I think any, first on my list would be a proud Canadian Jew, frankly. I don't see someone from another country who is not of the Jewish faith buying this. But it's possible. I mean, there are people who are as excited about history as I am, and it's about you are. It's an attractive poster. I mean, it's a subjective call. I wouldn't say it's a beautiful poster, but it is like the fellow who is selling it, or the estate that's selling it. It is of such great conversational and historic value. Somebody may really admire it for that. But I first and foremost, I would think that a proud Canadian Jew would be my primary candidate, or else a Jewish World War I buff. It's hard to say.
I'm going to show you one thing. Okay, and before, so this is the book. Oh, I'm sure this is a book that we have here. The Canadian Jewish News printed it last summer during the pandemic, which is the history of Canada's Jews through the CJN. And in this chapter, I'm going to tell you right now, I'm going to show it to you. Here's the picture right there. Hold on. Did I go away? Can you hear me? Can you see me?
Yeah, you're still here.
Here it is.
Oh my God, look at that.
Right, I wrote this chapter. So it says, there is something on the bottom, and my eyes are not good enough to read on the bottom right. Montreal Litho Limited, right?
Montreal Litho Company Limited. That's the printer of
right.
That's on the bottom right.
Right. So, I mean, it is an iconic thing for us here in Canada too. And I wish you lots of success. I wish I could afford to buy it myself, because I would, but I can't. And so we'll be in touch, and we'll watch it carefully.
I appreciate that, Ellen. And I guess I will add, not to chase anybody away from potentially going after buying this, but historically speaking, any Judaic item from the First World War, from America or Canada, tends to have a premium, simply because it was unusual that such a small minority group was targeted by the government for whatever particular action. So it's good to be a Jew.
Listen, good luck, and thanks so much for being here with us on the CJN Daily.
So happy, Ellen. Thank you so much for the time.